Welcome back to the podcast. I'm drinking water as usual. But welcome back to Tomboy Official. Gonna talk a little bit more about the L word. When I say a little bit more, I mean I don't know how long I'm gonna take talking about this. Complete spoiler though. If you haven't seen it, and if you don't want to know about it, then maybe don't listen. But yeah, I kind of talked a little bit about a couple of the demographics between the first series, second series. I really don't know what to call it. I mean, I guess the first series is like the original series. I don't know. And then Generation Q is the second. I mean, I don't know. It's just confusing because Generation Q is like season 1, season 2, season 3, but it has like a whole bunch of characters from the first, series. I think they said there was like a 9-year gap between the first one and Generation Q, so I don't really know what to call it. When you search L word, there's a lot of L word content. One thing that I thought was cool, this was something that I thought was really cool, that maybe other actors do this, but I thought it was super cool that some of the L word cast reached out to a lot of the YouTubers in LA, and when Generation Q was coming out, which was what I guess they say 9 years later. I mean, don't quote me on this. I just think that's what it was. They've reached out to a lot of the YouTubers that are famous in LA, like Amber's Closet, and I can't remember if Hannah Hart. I think Arrows, who was then Ari Fitz, Jess, J Killam, Jess. There were like a handful of others, and I was like, dude, that is like so cool of them to be like, the cast that just kind of came and like started talking to YouTubers. Like, I was just like, what? Like, they were actively like on their channels, just like collabing with them, and I was just like, that is like the coolest thing I've ever seen. And I mean, for people who maybe don't know, like, LA, like, I don't know, like, maybe it's just my own brain, because like I don't really pay attention to television much. Like, I've mentioned before, like, I've lived years with no television. I've lived with housemates with TVs and stuff, and like, usually the TV's in the living room, and because I'm avoiding all these people, I'm usually not in the living room, and if I am, I'm usually there when they're not there. And because I've almost always had like kind of a 9-to-5 type of job, I've almost always been home when other people are home. And so I was never really the one to have like access to the television, have time by myself to do that. And I didn't want to anyways, because usually I was either studying or just had my own things I wanted to do. I wasn't really going to sit in front of the TV. Plus, when you're used to using a computer so much, I mean, you can find whatever you want to watch, and I'd rather watch what I feel like watching than watch TV. I mean, the only thing I kind of like on TV, honestly, is sports, because it's like, for me, sports are something that, like, it's a lot more interesting to just watch it live. um I don't really watch repeat games. Like, I might if it's like a repeat of the same day, like that's like a maybe, but usually I'm not like that desperate. um but sports are just about the only thing I can tolerate, other than maybe movie channels. I like movie channels. um or like the TVs that have, like, you can get to the apps like Netflix and YouTube and that kind of stuff. And so for people like me who aren't like too tuned in to like mainstream television, I've gone years without watching TV. Like, like, I watch YouTube mostly, and if it's not YouTube, I Google what I want to watch and I find it and I watch it. Or, if I have a subscription to something, I'll watch it. Or, I mean, honestly, I'll bootleg stuff. Like, I don't really care. Like, it's not, a big deal to me. Usually, if I like something enough, I'm gonna buy it. Like, I have a bunch of stuff I've purchased on YouTube. I think I purchased Queer as Folk. I don't know if it was all seasons or a few of them. I've got quite a bit of movies. Like, I'll actually buy stuff. But I like to have digital copies of things and not like physical. And um like, I like that you can buy stuff on YouTube. I have The Sopranos on there. I think I have all the seasons or most of the seasons on there. But I'll buy stuff on YouTube if I really like it, and that's pretty much where I keep my movies now. Or my series of shows that I do purchase. But then I'll bootleg them too, because sometimes I'm like, I don't really want to pay for this right now, but then I'll wait like years later and buy it. And so I'll eventually buy it, but I'll access the free crappy copies too, just because I don't have a problem with it. I know a lot of people do. It's kind of a controversial thing, but I know it's a form of stealing for sure, but whatever. I deal with the consequences. It's not completely free. You still have to deal with a bunch of BS. But yeah, like, so basically, because I watch so much YouTube, and like, I can't really tell if it's just like my perception is kind of like a little biased or a little warped towards like what things are really like. But I'm just trying to give an example. Like, I can't remember what year this Pride was. It was, I want to say maybe 2018 or 2017 LA Pride. Maybe it was like 2018 or so. I remember going with a friend. I don't remember how many friends. I know at least one. In the morning, like in the daytime, in the afternoon time, we went to Pride. And then this friend, he was a guy, and he was like, like, I don't remember what we were talking about, but I don't know if we were talking about celebrities or whatever. And I remember saying, like, I'm just looking for YouTubers. I want to take pictures with some of the YouTubers that I follow. And I remember I saw Keith and Eugene from BuzzFeed. This is when they were still with BuzzFeed. It was like before the Try Guys, I think. And I took a picture with Eugene. And then I remember it may have been that same year that Jess was emceeing at the Long Beach Pride Festival. It may have been that same year. Because I think she was emceeing. I can't remember who was rapping, but there were some hip hop artists. I think Young M.A. was performing, and I saw some of the other YouTubers from BuzzFeed, some of the, I don't know what they identify as now, but I think they were from, like, when they had those, I don't know if it was violet or purple or what it was called, but there were like some queer women ones. There's like a larger sized lady. She's got dark skin. I don't know if she's biracial or not, but usually she has like bald or like really short buzzed hair. I can't remember her name. I think then there was a person who was identifying as a lesbian named Jen. She was like, I think she was like half Italian, half Asian, or something like that. There were like two or three people from BuzzFeed that were like females that were walking, and like the people who were like emceeing and all that kind of, like, those are the kind of people I used to watch, just like online and stuff, just soak up all the content. And I don't know if it was just me, but I remember when I used to follow like as much gay YouTube as I could find, and I remember Davey Wavy being one of the first ones I followed, and a lot of other, there were, I think, Jade Fox back when she was Foxy Hot Mess, and then I think Jess J. Killam was one of the first. I think those were three of the first people that I followed, and I think they all moved to LA, and I started noticing this pattern of like all these YouTubers moving to LA, and I don't think I was in LA all of that time. I think I moved to San Diego, and I was like, dang, I wish I was in LA, because like they were kind of like lower key, and it seemed like they were just like always around places where I was always hanging out. Like everybody was always over at the Abbey, everybody was always just like hanging around WeHo and like all over LA and stuff, and I was just like, dude, like it just was just like LA vlogs. Like that's basically what it was. Like I would just follow a bunch of LA vlogs. Like it was just vloggers all over LA. I had friends who did vlogging when they lived over near they weren't far from like Melrose. I can't remember what, like Miracle Mile, kind of like near Beverly Hills, kind of that LA Beverly Hills border. And I would go over to their place and we just like roam around LA and stuff. Parking sucked, oh my gosh. But we had a good time, and I remember we just make little, pull out your phone and make little videos, and everyone was kind of into like projects. You'd always just get into like projects like with random people. I remember like, I don't know how I had this job like writing like SEO content for freaking like a bunch of like Beverly Hills like plastic surgeon like clinics, and like I would get paid to like write like articles for their websites, and like there were all these like small SEO businesses that would make like websites and blogs and press releases and all this kind of stuff, and I would be one of the content writers, and I didn't know anything about it, but you just write about like one topic all the time, and it was so obnoxious. But there would be these teams, like these little businesses of all these little teams, and then people would just leave the business because they knew how to do it, and they would form their own businesses out of their own teams of people. And I just found it really, really cool, like I was just like, this is just what people do. Like it was just a big part of life. Like I don't know if other cities are like that, but I know just being around LA a lot. I know in San Diego, I never really saw that a lot. The only time I saw anything even vaguely familiar is because there's this like queer clothing brand based in San Diego, and one of my friends models for that company, and they never like told me, but I remember like being on Instagram and seeing all these ads, and I was like, hey, that's like so and so, and I didn't really know. And then I kept kind of like meeting people at like the gay bars that were friends with this person, because they all were like modeling for that company. But that's kind of as close as it got, that I recognized, but that was in San Diego. I never really saw like a big like vlogging scene and like the whole small business kind of like, content creation kind of scene until I was, not until, but like comparing San Diego to LA, definitely I saw it in LA all the time. Like it was just part of just what people do. Like it wasn't, like I don't know, like you would just like pick up work doing that kind of stuff, like, writing or filming or vlogging or editing or like whatever. Like you'd always be just doing that kind of stuff. And like I don't know that many people honestly who weren't doing that kind of stuff. Like even people like, unless the only people I knew who kind of weren't doing it were people who were like not interested in like anything creative whatsoever. Like I have some friends that were in, not that nurses aren't creative, but I had some friends that were like in nursing that they never did that or anything. But actually no, because after they graduated, some of them got into blogging, about how they got into nursing school, and their blogs were getting a lot of traction. And I remember making some WordPress sites for a couple nurses, and then for one of my friends, younger brother's robotics team in high school. And like I just be like, you just crank out a bunch of stuff. And like, but I was always like studying and in school too, which was a problem. It always took a lot of energy away from like the other stuff I was trying to do. So I knew how to do it, but it's like tech and everything moves so fast that like even if you take like a year off, it's like you come back to it and it's like, geez, I gotta like learn. Like I remember when I had to learn how to use, I don't know if it was like Windows 7 or Windows 10 or whatever. I don't remember which Windows it was, where it was like so different with the tiles and stuff, because I was so used to the other Windows. Like I don't know. I liked XP, and then I kind of liked Vista just because you could screw around with it because it sucks so bad. But I kind of liked Vista and XP, and then ever since then I never really liked any of the other updates. And so I kind of had to get used to it, I guess, but because of work. But yeah, I just found it just very interesting, that yeah, in LA, like you could go to like events, and you're not looking for like celebrities like that. It's like I want to see the people whose content I actually watch, you know what I mean? Like, and that to me was really fun. And yeah, I don't know, I never really realized how long I was like doing all kinds of like weird stuff. But yeah, I really got into like, I think it was when I don't remember, I don't even want to, like I had some years that were like between different schools, and I kind of blend them together. So now I can't really fully remember which years are which. But I know when I go back and look at some of the YouTube content I posted when I was like uploading videos, that was like 11 years ago. So it was a freaking long time ago. So, and that's when I had the Asus G73 gaming laptop. So between 11 and 13 years ago, I had that computer. So that means I was into like 3D modeling and recording with what was then Propellerhead software. I was doing a lot of stuff, just for fun though, but everyone I knew was doing a lot of stuff, so it wasn't really that abnormal to me. But yeah, I just say all that to say that like I just found it really interesting how a lot of the members of the cast of the L Word were kind of like really you know open to kind of reaching out to a lot of the LA YouTubers, because they were kind of the face of gay media, honestly, like for the whole time. It was just LA YouTubers, or all the YouTubers that moved to LA. Like, the TV wasn't doing anything. Netflix, I don't think at that time had a whole bunch of their weird movies that they were making. I don't think they were like producing and stuff as much. Like, I didn't notice Netflix making their own originals. I don't remember when they started, but that's a little more recent. They didn't have all these like series and like movies that they were making. And they didn't even have, I don't think they even had the category of the LGBTQ section of movies. Because I remember when the Black Lives Matter movement started getting a lot more traction, they actually added a section of, I don't know if it's called like Black Lives Matter or something like that. Like, that wasn't always there either on Netflix. And so, like, I don't have every single subscription because it's like they get expensive. It adds up, and I'm cheap. I'm a cheapskate, guys. Like, I'm not gonna pay like $60 worth of subscriptions. So me and my sister, split a few throughout the year. We don't have Hulu anymore, but right now I have YouTube, Netflix. Yes, I do pay for YouTube, Netflix, and I have Showtime that I keep or will cancel temporarily, depending on if I'm watching something. And I had Fubo TV or whatever it's called. I think I got that. I got a trial just to watch the LAFC MLS finals, the championship game. Then I canceled that subscription because it's like $60 a month or some freaking ridiculous price. So yeah, I mean, I was just like thinking about, like, are there any other shows where there's like a community of people that, like, the actual cast comes and like finds the YouTubers and like collabs with them. Like, there are a bunch of like Trekkies, Star Wars people, people of just like any like Marvel, like any kind of movies like that you see, or series that you watch, even like, game, people who make video games and stuff. Nobody reaches out to like the YouTube community to collab with them like that. It's not really like that, and yeah, even like, it's like, is it weird to like go to like Pride events and just be like, hey, I recognize those people from YouTube? It's like, is that normal? But I mean, like, I feel like maybe that's normal in the queer community, and maybe because, there's a lot of queer people in LA, and then a lot of YouTubers move to LA in general, and then a lot of that population tends to be queer anyways, just because LA just attracts the gays. And there's creativity, there's a lot of queer vibes, and a lot of the content is coming out of LA. Like, I wouldn't say, I don't know if I could say most of it or whatever, but it seems like the majority of the famous queer YouTubers that I've followed eventually came to LA. Some of them left, some of them came back. But even in the meantime, when the L word wasn't, like, even during the Rona, when the L word, when nothing was live anymore, a lot of the L word cast, like, I know Shane, well, I just gotta say their names from the show. Shane and what's her freaking name? The one who wrote the chart, Alice. So Shane and Alice had like their own, like, they hang out, they're like friends, and they had some vlog episodes and some show or shows, some podcasts about God only knows what. I don't even know, And now I noticed that this isn't really, well, maybe it's kind of related, but there's another podcast that I follow that I love. What's it called? Bad Queers podcast. They're now, I think they're sponsored now by Showtime. So there's like a lot of big stuff that's definitely changing in the spaces of queer media. That's just like right before my eyes. I'm just like, what the heck, like in a good way though. But it's just like all the YouTubers that I know that are queer that I watch, that they're collabing now. It's like I don't even know if it's like if you like manifest it. Like it almost feels like I wanted this to happen, so it happened. Like they're like, I don't know, like I don't know, because I don't think there's other populations of people that just like do like this hard like fangirl over like different people who make content, and then just kind of like this hardcore fangirl kind of community that's like, yeah, you actually care about the YouTubers. It's like, it's kind of weird. It's like they're kind of like a part of your life, even though you don't even really know them. But it's like they allow you to have like a segment of their life involved, and you kind of have that one thing in common. Even though, when I think about it, I'm like, there's still a whole lot of diversity, like when I hear them talk in details about like their lives and all the stuff, like their identity and how they date, or if they're married, or if they have kids, or whatever they're doing, like all the different kind of YouTubers, like they're all so different from one another. Even just the lesbians alone are different from one another, or the people who identify as lesbians, or the people who identify as like whatever. And then when I even like look back and I'm trying to describe who's who, it's like, fast forward to now, some people, they've come into maybe a different gender identity, and their pronouns are different, and their name is different, and like, so it's kind of hard to even be like, oh, this person who was formerly that person, and like it just, there's not a problem with it being, it's not confusing like that, but it's just kind of like you realize how much changes in a person's life just by like watching, and it's kind of like almost like normalized in a way. And I think it really helps too, because the field I work in, I work with a lot of different types of people, and sometimes just it can be an interesting thing when people start when clients start talking about like queer topics and stuff. All right, guys, I really went way off on a tangent, so I'm bringing it back. I'm kind of editing clips out now. But yeah, more about the L word spoilers. And so, yeah, I really just like that. Mostly how they, kind of, mostly the collabs they were doing with the YouTubers. I really thought that was cool. And how they were doing their, creating their own content. The cast was creating their own content outside of the actual, like, show. And so that was something that, I've never really seen before. Like, too much of. I mean, I'm pretty sure maybe there are other actors out there that have podcasts and all kinds of stuff, like, but I've never really seen it in a way where there's like a lot of collaborating, like on YouTube videos where, people just like reach out to their own community of people, and it's like, they get connected to the actual people that are creating content out there. that maybe aren't necessarily on the big Hollywood screens, but they're definitely roaming around Hollywood, and they got the little screens, and so they're on the pocket screens, and so it's pretty cool to see, honestly. But yeah, I just found that as an interesting thing that comes up, and I don't know if I have too much more to say about that right now, but I'm back on season 5 of the L Word. When what's her face, when she goes to prison and meets Dusty, what's her name, the really rich one. There was like that really rich, I blank on a lot of these people's names, and I really don't know actors' names like in real life. Not too many of them, just the ones that I really, if I know an actor's name, it's because I really like them. I only know, I probably couldn't even name and identify the actual, like, maybe like 20 people. Like, I would say, like, if you count like comedians and like stuff like that, maybe, yeah, but there are a lot of people that I wouldn't know. How to like actually, if I see the name, and that I know the person, like Keira Knightley, and like there's certain people that like I'm like, yeah, I know who that is for sure. But I'm not like one of those people who, usually when people are like, oh, that actor, like so and so that was in this movie with that person, and I'm like, I don't even know like which people. Like, you got to give me like a storyline to work with. I don't really know actors, even though you'd think I would with the amount of movies I watch, but I don't really follow. Like I know what they look like and stuff, but just matching the name to the face, like usually I don't really know like who's who. Like the cast of Friends, I couldn't name everybody, but I can name, maybe, I don't even want to say because I think I might be wrong, but yeah, but okay, well, I think I've said all I needed to say about what I was thinking on that note, but guys, check out the L Word if you're interested. Like, I feel like I'm spoiling it on here. Like, anyone who hasn't watched it is gonna get everything spoiled if you're listening to these, but maybe it'll entice you to watch it. I mean, yeah, the storyline is sensationalized, and there's a lot of just like random sex just because they can have sex, like there's definitely that thrown in, but I also do like how in the first series, how the concepts come up about how queer media gets treated, how they were like, I mean, this theme comes up a lot, how they're like, okay, like, because one of the characters in the show, Jenny, she is a writer, and then she eventually ends up turning one of her books into a screenplay called Les Girls, and basically, the directors and everybody, they're all like, okay, you could have put like more sex here and more sex there, and it's kind of like, okay, like really, like, like they are just trying to like spice up things, just because they know people would want to see lesbian sex, and so it's kind of like that is kind of how it goes. Because if you've ever watched the real L Word, they have like New York and LA. I didn't really like the ones like in the South. They were like a little too, I think there was like a Georgia one or something that was like a little intense to me. is very like religious persecution. Like at the very beginning, I was like, oh shit, like let's go back to LA and New York where people were having fun and they were just like having gay drama, and like I could deal with that, but I don't want to deal with like the reality of like all that other kind of stuff. It's just like, dude, I just want to like watch some queer people running around town acting like fools. But you kind of would notice that like a lot of those characters, you know, they were young females. Probably most of them were like not even in their 30s by this point, or maybe a couple of them were. And then, you know, they were just having sex all over the place. And that's kind of how reality shows go. And I think I heard, I could be wrong, but I think I heard that like in reality shows, if they do certain like, there's certain types of, I don't want to call it like a point system, but there's certain types of things that you can do that get you more money or more points or more, you get something for, you know, initiating like sexual activity and like doing this or doing that. And like, so it's not all like staged. Like they're not telling you, like a lot of it's staged, but they're not like telling you go do this or go do that. But it's like you can kind of create some drama within limits and then get like more pay for it. That's something that I think I heard. I never really looked into it, so it might be completely inaccurate, but it would make sense because it seems like they kind of just were just fucking all over the place. Like there was no rhyme or reason or any kind of like, it's just like, oh, like is that really what's going on, you know? Like all of a sudden, like I know people do, but like damn, like I don't think it's like that. Like honestly, like I don't know, I think it's just very true that when it comes to media, and especially with like lesbian type of media, it's definitely hypersexualized. I mean, I'm not saying that women won't just like fuck everybody, like that happens, but it's like it's not like to that extent, I don't think, where it's just like somebody walks out of a bathroom and now they're fucking in the kitchen and then their friends are walking in the door, like, oh shit, like that's not like, I think most people know, like, hey, if your friends are coming over for dinner, maybe you should do that later, or you know, I don't know, like it's not usually like that. I mean, people have other stuff they're trying to do too, they're not just doing that all day. But yeah, it's kind of like interesting because I think a lot of like straight shows you don't really see that much emphasis, and like even just like, I mean, I don't know, we can all talk about it till we're blue in the face about, you know, how sometimes people can just be like inappropriate with questions and stuff. It's just kind of like weird, like it's just like assumed that like, you know, queer people are just ultra sexual about everything all the time. Like I think it might appear that way though, because there is that kind of like gay adolescence kind of thing where it's like, you know, when you're finally like independent enough to get away with doing whatever it is that you were wanting to do when you meet new dates and people and stuff, you can finally just do it. So there definitely is like, sometimes depending where you live, I guess there can definitely be like a major kind of hookup culture, just because everybody's just like, you know, finally, you know, I'm able to like do this without anybody, you know, breathing down my throat about it or whatever, you know. It's like there is kind of that, but outside of that, I don't really think that, you know, queer people are really having like, I mean, I've heard that queer couples have more sex than straight couples. I wouldn't really know. I don't know how I don't know. I don't really ask my straight friends how much sex they're having with everybody, but I know my queer friends aren't just like banging everybody. Like there's some, you know, like there's like a decision making process, you know. And people just hook up, like there's not a problem with it. I don't think there's a problem with it, but I think just when it's like assumed that, you know, people just like, I don't know, sometimes when people know if you're a gay person, then they just, that's all they want to talk about, and it can be really weird. Because it's like, especially when you like barely met the person, like, and they don't know you and you don't even remember their name, and they're just like asking you a bunch of questions about stuff that's like, why do you really want to know this? Like, that's weird. Like, I don't care what sex positions you like. Like, what the fuck? Like, just let me eat my steak and drink my beer. Like, leave me alone, you know? But it's kind of like, I don't know. It's just, it just opens the door for, like, awkward conversations. But I don't know. I mean, sometimes it can be appreciated, but sometimes it's just like, what the heck? It's just, you gotta just kind of read the room a bit. Sometimes, I think people just have to kind of read the room. But, yeah. Yeah, I've been done for like 10 minutes. But, alright, I'm gonna stop this episode and move on to what I was trying to edit before. Thanks for listening.